ladies and gentlemen. We are here live, and this is a special edition here. We have the man, the myth, the legend, Jeremy Elliott is here. I hope I spelled it right. Jeremy can be spelled multiple different ways, correct or no?
No, it can. It's Jeremy.
I might have got it right. Texas education system. But at the end of the day, you just got down the road. I guess you just left Port Royal, correct?
Yeah. Yes, I did.
And you have been an avid listener of the Chaz here recently, and there's been a lot of stuff you've actually told me. You're like, I need to be able to call or something. I'm ready to say this or that. Last night, I think you were really pissed off that a one division event took how long to race? How long did that Tusky race?
6 hours and 12 minutes last night.
Really? And this is one division.
It's not just the one division. The thing that's bad about it is it's a Thursday night. People work.
When I'm a track or promoter, whatever you want to call it, influencer of what you should and should not do, races going past that 9:30 point is when you get into the if zone of promotion. And I don't think that anyone should get past that 9:30 if they want to have a right type of show. So whether it was a Thursday or not, it's kind of null and void, I would think.
Yeah, look, I have this thing now, and I got into discussion because I was pretty fired up last night. It was one of the few times where, one of the only times I can think of that I didn't write after the races. Normally, I get all my stuff for SprintCarUnlimited.com done, I work until about 4 or 5 a.m. depending on the race. Afterward, once I get home, do video, whatever it is, and stories. Last night I got home at 2:45, and I was so pissed off I went to bed. That takes a lot.
Well, what time? Well, and watching it myself, and honestly, I obviously somewhat follow the sport, somewhat know the sport, and I caught myself really not watching a lot of the broadcast. Because every time I tuned in, the one time they were trying to let the world know that they are American patriots. They were riding horses around, it felt like, for 45 minutes. And then there was just so much downtime. What was the downtime for? I know they kept saying on the track or something, but that's usually never the case. What happened at the track? What's different all of a sudden?
Well, I mean, look, what was different last night or racing in general? And look, I had this discussion today, and we're to the point, and I'm going to write about this next week. Probably a little more better than I do here because that's my living. But I will say, look, we're to the point now where you're competing for every entertainment dollar. I've covered other sports. I've been in other arenas. And when I worked as a sports writer at a newspaper, we're competing, meaning we're sprint car racing, dirt track racing in general. You're competing for entertainment dollars. And the attention spans have decreased. And you can't, and here's the worst part. Kids have less attention spans than, say, you or I do. And I would consider us diehards. We're going to die, okay? We're going to be 6 feet under, and this sport's going to be in trouble because they're holding 6-hour shows, 5-hour shows, and these kids, who's your future audience, isn't going to be there. They're going to get bored. My daughter's 11. I'm lucky I get her at things she likes for 2.5 hours. She's ready to go home, or do something else. So last night was just dicking around. We're doing driver intros. We're doing dash draws on the front, or the draw on the front stretch. I mean, look, I've heard Brent Marks speak a lot this year. do we need to hear him again on a Thursday night when you're trying to get done? I mean, is he going to say something different?
Well, and also I thought it was something with the dirt. Did they put new dirt down? Will Port Royal ever be the same?
Yeah, okay, and last it was not good. It was too wet. It's very dirty now. They put 27 loads of clay on it after Fair Week, and do I think it'll return? Yes. Was it better? I know we were texting a little bit earlier, and it's very dirty. Like, sitting in the pit grandstand, it's almost difficult to watch. But, and I do stress but, after going to the pit area and talking to some drivers, Tyler Courtney thought it was a lot closer to Old Port Royal tonight as opposed to last night.
It definitely was. It was on the fence. It definitely was that. I would definitely say that.
Well, it slicked off a little bit. And that's, the problem is it's not slicking off enough, and it's very dirty. David Gravel, talked to him afterward tonight. We'll have a video on SprintCarUnlimited.com. He talked about it. It was just dirty. Now, that being said, there's a lot of drivers, especially local drivers, who aren't pleased with it. They don't like it. They don't understand why Port decided to do this now.
Well, there are a lot of people that would pray to have that type of dirt that Port Royal used to have. They would never touch it. You know, Houston's has this big issue with their dirt, I think. It seems like. Where it can't go slick and stay slick, it seems to rubber very quickly. You know, they would, I don't know what they would do, but they would do probably a lot to transfer the dirt that was there before and just bring it over here. What they had there was so rare, so if it's so damn good, and it's always been that damn good, why would you even try to fix it?
Well, I think it's not a case of they were fixing it. I think it's a case of, hey, they've done this before. This isn't the first time they've done it. I think they did it like 4 years ago. I think they did that. It was before a Tuscarora 50 weekend, and they did it, and it raced okay. I just think it needs to, pardon the pun, it needs to knead into the surface. It needs to be worked. And, the nice thing is, I think they got the dirt at the same place, I would assume, and it's just one of those things that it's going to take time.
Well, and isn't it also timing in the same sentence? Because even though if they did that 4 years ago before the Tusky, I think I do remember this. I think it might have been 19. But if they did it 4 years ago, they did it before the Tusky 50. Obviously, if I remember correctly, a lot of people didn't like that. So at least this way, this time, they tried to time it after the Tuscarora 50. And, it's outlaw, whatever, if it's a track rental, it's outlaw week. It's outlaw weekend. They get to figure the track out. Nobody really, we don't really care. We're worried about the Tusky, so at least the timing was different than the last go round.
Yeah, it was. And again, I probably am a little harsh. I sometimes catch myself being a little harsh, full disclosure on some of how I view it. That's why I like to go talk to the drivers a bit about it, because they're racing on it. I'm not.
Right.
But I will say it's not racing as well this weekend. Now, again, do I think it will? Yes. Steve Steinley's very good at what he does. Port Royal's very good, has a very good surface. It produces some pretty good half-mile racing. And it's going to get right. It's not something that's going to be a permanent problem. It's just, it's like you said, it's the timing of it. People were not happy last night. There's guys who weren't happy tonight, but at least there were some who were okay tonight. Like I said, Tyler Courtney liked it tonight. David Gravel, I'm sure Lance DeWeese did as well. And there were a couple guys tonight who still didn't like it because they thought the grade changed a little bit, and it just hasn't been worked in enough. But that's neither here nor there. It was better tonight than last night. And here's the most important thing: 3.5 hours. That's how long they raced tonight.
That's what an outlaw format will give you.
Well, I don't even think it's that. It's called we're not going to screw around. We'll give you. You know, I've said this before, and this is not a popular opinion. The Knoxville Nationals, last night of the Knoxville Nationals is too long.
Oh,
You're
by
running
far.
5 races. You're running 5 races over 6 hours. Now look, I like pageantry. Don't get me wrong. I like driver intros.
The Kentucky Derby is only how long of a race, and they make it a 3 hour, 4 or 5 all day event.
Correct. They're drinking mint juleps and in the infield and doing all that stuff. So, yeah, I just think you need to streamline the first part, because here's the thing. Whether anybody likes it or they don't like it, the East Coast is your premier audience because it's the biggest area for sprint car racing. That's not me being a homer. That's the truth.
Well, not just sprint car racing, but racing in general. I think it was you who told me like a local big block modified track up there is the second largest streaming viewing audience in the country or something like that weekly.
Yes, it's like the third largest on the platform. It's Albany, Saratoga. It's up in New York. So, yeah.
You would have never think that, but that's how many dirt fans are up there, and they'll watch Knoxville Nationals. It's a novelty thing. You know, big blocks and sprint cars somewhat have a relationship.
Well, yeah, well, not only that, let's face it. I don't care what anybody tells you on the late model side. The biggest dirt track race in the world is the Knoxville Nationals, bar none. That's it. It's watched in England. It's
you're biased towards late models. You just don't get it, but that's fine.
No, wait. That's not true because, unbeknownst to you, I used to cover the Firecracker at Lernerville, and I actually like seeing the good late model trucks. Now, I'm not going to go to Port Royal to see late model.
Yeah, but the Firecracker 50, if you're talking about late model prestige, is like 12th on the list.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. At the time, it was still the biggest late model race in the state, and it was a big race, and it had all the guys there. What's it matter? Who cares? Doesn't matter. They were all there.
It's just like if I go to the Summer Nationals and say that's the biggest sprint car race you got, I can judge the pageantry or the allure of the Knoxville Nationals. I went to the Williams Grove. That's a huge 70,000. You can't do that. You know, you can't go to the Firecracker 50 and then judge the Knoxville National style events that late model racing does have. That's all I'm saying.
No, that's fine, but I will be stunned. I will be stunned if the Knoxville Nationals isn't the biggest dirt track race in the world.
Well, and I would say, and I've said to late model people, and it is true, there's more people in late models and more fans, but they're not as big. They're big in the people, but not in the mainstream. Sprint cars are more popular than late models, and I think you're potentially right because the closer event to that Knoxville Nationals, even on the polls, would be Chili Bowl. Maybe would be the next closest, right? You could even put Chili Bowl above the late model events. You really could, as far as popularity. We're talking popularity because we've seen the Chili Bowl on those top 10 most visited lists and all that. We've seen Knoxville, and I think it's top 5 or number 1 motorsport, event attraction. So, yeah, I mean, as far as popularity, I do think late models have a ways to go.
Well, but I think late models are popular here. But when I say that, when you're watching it and just international appeal is where sprint car racing probably... Look,
I think it's because it's rare. I think it's because it looks completely different than anything else they've seen. A late model kind of looks like a stock car. Into the dummy world, it looks like a car, whereas a sprint car doesn't look like a car at all. So I think it has that unique visual appeal.
And that might be, but when I brought up the Firecracker, I was just pointing out that I'm not biased against it because I like late models. I think they put on some really good races. I have watched them. The problem is, for me, I'm usually at a sprint car race because I go to 100 and whatever of them a year for the website, so I just don't get a chance. I'd love to go to the World 100.
I'll tell you what. Go ahead. Sorry, I know you're used to cut Pete off, and I am. So
no, that's all right. I'd love to go to the World 100, but what weekend is it?
Same weekend as Go Cup. I know that.
and the Tuscarora 50.
And the Tuscarora, that is Tuscarora week. You're right. You're right. You're right.
I can't get rid of
I'll
that.
tell you what, though, Jeremy. Tonight, I watched the Port Royal race, and it was just so boring. And I flip over the late miles, are 19 laps in, 30 or 21 to go. There's guys coming from 16th. They're 3 and 4 wide. The leaders are passing each other. There's a local guy running third, who first time ever against the Outlaw. You know, that I don't. And it's the speed deal. I still love sprint. I wish that sprint cars could race like that. They just can't race back and forth. It just seems, and I think that's a competition issue. I don't think that it's the cars. I think that it's the competition. It's just not there. I think there's not an abundance of competition. In the late models, there's 120 teams funded like an outlaw team. Like completely funded. In the sprint car world, the only outlaw funded teams are outlaws and maybe one or two other guys. Like Brian Browns or Brent Marks or, you know, it's not 100 cars. So it's just that much closer in competition, because I think the fitted world has always aspired to be late model stars, where all the money in sprint car racing at a young age went to pursuing a NASCAR career. That's the difference to me.
To me, it's just I think your sprint cars are more stock. I don't think I think they've taken some of the ingenuity out of it. They've taken some of the look for you to have passing.
They ain't took the cost out of it though.
No, well, they're never going to do that. But
that's what I mean, though. There's not, the money's not being put into the sport.
Your sprint car, you're not going to. It's going to be very rare to have, when you have equal cars. You can only do so much. You're not going to have guys charging through the field because, let's face it, everybody's fast. If the track's heavy. I mean, one of the comments I got about last night's surface was it was too easy to drive. You could just stick it on the cushion and go, and it was easy. So
the non-wing boys have a point when they say it's a crutch.
Well, okay, they can say that, but meanwhile they're running for $6,000.
I understand they're getting raw dogged and they're enjoying it. I'm still saying though, it is a wing sprint car sometimes too easy to drive. I mean, some people make that argument.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, it's not unhooked, but I think with the new tire, it's definitely different. I think
new
it's
tire
more
that
dangerous.
kills people, according to you know.
Yeah, I look. Bernie Stubgen has a point, and Bobby Allen, and I talked to these guys. It could be a story on the website coming soon about that, and you see it tonight on when the track's dirty like that. Guys are trying to get to the top, and boy, I don't know. I'm glad I'm on the writing end of it and not the driving end of it, because there's definitely some anxious moments and some hard tumbles, because guys are trying to get to the top quicker because of the tire and everything else, and they take chances. So I just think late model racing is a different animal. I think there's more haves and I think there's more have-nots. And I think you can do more with the packages. I think sprint cars are limited. I think they've taken some things away, or you can't be you're not building it in a shop anymore.
Well, and to your point, I like to challenge my own opinion all the time. To your point, I would say you're right, because a late model with a 4-link suspension, they got 100 different adjustments that they can do on all 4 or all 2 corners of kind of both sides of the car, you know, so where they can make an adjustment that's going to make a significant difference. There's not really, what you're saying is at that top echelon of sprint car racing, there's not really much you can adjust to have an advantage.
Right, and there's some smart. I mean, think about some of the crew chiefs in sprint car racing. You know, you have Ricky Warner. He's pretty good.
Phil Dietz.
The fact that you have Philip Dietz. You have Cody Jacobs has come along. You know, he's out in the Outlaw Tour now, and I think he's definitely upped his game. And you have so many. You have Davey Brown, of course.
Paul Silva.
You have so many guys who really good and they're in this box. I'm sure they wish they weren't. Look, I had Ricky Warner on our podcast, and he said, really, he just does the basics. He works on the basics. He masters the basics, and he's a former Carl Kinzer guy. Justin Adams, who's with Casey Kane, he's really good. He's a former Carl Kinzer guy. Barry Jackson was under Carl Kinzer, who was the best of all time, in my opinion, as a crew chief. So, look, these guys are smart, and they kind of put them in a box, and this is what we got.
Kind of to help you out here, I think, and in the defense, because a lot of people would say, oh, well, that must make crew chief in a sprint car easy. Oh, that's why y'all are always single file or something like that. And the people who may think that, you have all these adjustments on the late model sides, but I look at it in the admirable way. It's almost like Daytona for NASCAR. Like everybody's wide open, but if you look at the separation between number 1 and number 25, it's, a tenth of a second. So to be into that top percentile of that tenth of a second difference is extremely hard to be the best when everybody's able to just flat-foot it. Not everybody's able to flat-foot it. Obviously, you got to transition that ability to be that much faster on a slick track, which is just as hard, which is probably the goal for most people. They'd rather be good on the slick than good in the tack. And I do think that wing sprint car drivers are using a lot of footwork, contrary to what most people would think. Maybe they're just wide open all the time. Both feet are at work all the time. Feet are driving those cars, really. But I would say that that's another mark in the book for the difficulty to set up sprint cars. Because that gap is so close between the competitors, and you ain't got much to do.
Absolutely. Look at the guys who are winning this year. Look at your biggest guys. Eric Prutzman's with Brad Sweet. He's very good. You got Paul Silva with Kyle Larson. Very good. You got, Cody Jacobs. Very good. He's with David Gravel. Look, Ricky Warner's with Rico. Look at what Rico's done the last, towards the end of last year and this year. Look at the guys.
Another driver. Is that not the biggest swing in 1 year? Because, if it was a year and a half ago and we're talking about Rico's racing career, how much longer are they going to do it? There was a bad stretch there for Rico. People were saying he was just good for selling T-shirts for like a year.
Oh, yeah, that's not the case now. He was terrible tonight, but...
but you know what I'm saying. It looked like he was on the out.
Sure, but, and I, like I said, I do awards at the end of the year. I do, and to me, the comeback guy of the year is Zeb Wise, and it's not close.
Really?
Zeb Wise from where... think about Rudine Racing, where that was, and then think about where it is now. He looks really good. He was terrible at Williams Grove. He dreaded coming to Williams Grove. He won there this year. He wasn't great at Port. Now he looks good at Port. Sealands Grove, he wins there. The All-Stars have notoriously struggled in here.
I got your point. I like that pick. I got that point. I like your pick, but mine would be in multiple ways. Mine would be James McFadden. Look at what Roth was last couple years before he got there, and then literally what happened to him this year and came back. James McFadden don't have those issues. He's definitely up there. He may not be contending for the title, but he's flirting with the top 3, I think.
That's fair. He's been really good. They've had some that they did have. Look, that motor still isn't where it needs to be yet. So I don't think he'd be. I think he'd be probably 6th, 7th. But it's a good point.
He's been fast.
And he's been fast. Well, look at Buddy Kofoid. He would have won last night, I think. Brent Marks would have won. But after the thing happened with Marks, Kofoid was going to win that race. Think about this. Motor problems have cost him $312,000.
Wow.
Because he would have won the High Bank Nationals. There's no way David Gravel would have caught him.
Let me give you some stats real quick. I usually don't do this, but James McFadden has 56 races, Buddy Kofoid has 45, so 11 more races for James McFadden this year against the Outlaws, we're talking.
Yep.
How many wins you think Kofoid has? in 45 starts.
Is it the 4? Are you including the 11 or just Roth?
This is the driver points, so I'm assuming this is. I'm looking at the driver points on the site. I'm assuming that's both.
So that's yeah, it's both. Well, I know Kofoid has 4 wins. McFadden has 6. One of them's the Front Row Challenge.
Right. Well, that's what I was going to say. 6 wins, and it says Kofoid has 3. So I don't know if one was a non points or what, but
yeah,
I don't know. I would argue that McFadden's been more impressive this year than Kofoid.
Yeah, he's beaten him a couple times. Devil's Bowl earlier this year, he beat Kofoid down there, and Kofoid returned the favor of Placerville a couple weeks ago. So, yeah, no, they've both been very good.
Roth has been good. How about that? Turn around for Roth. I get that with the rooting car. You know, Roth has always seemed to be this guy looking for the guy, and it seems like this is this tando. Really, it would be a bad thing, I think, if Roth goes to a 1-car. This 2-car thing is really good. They got 2 guys that are really solid.
I agree, and honestly, I don't know why Buddy Kofoid wasn't in the 83 car 5 years ago. I don't know what
does
Roth
not make
was
sense.
doing.
Wasn't they busy with Macedo, though, helping that happen first?
No, Carson ran for Tarleton and then went out on the road with Gertie. So they had Gio for a little bit.
Who was it that was in it?
And
Eliason, then. Who was in the Silver 83 on the road? Eliason?
Yeah, Eliason was out there in it for a while. And, I mean, look, it's Roth. They went through drivers.
Right. But they got a good stable, it seems like. They could really ride this one and contend for Outlaw Championships, I think, with these 2 guys.
I think, Joe Von Schultz, who's my guy, I like Joe. I know you have some people don't understand Joe.
Oh, the PA Mountains got him. Hold on, you broke up. Are you there?
Yep. No, I'm here.
All right, go for it. You're good again. PA Mountains.
Yep. Joe's I got near the casino. I almost wanted to turn off and gamble, but I didn't.
You're gambling as you talk to me. I mean, that's gambling.
I'm not worried about that. But Joe, I like Joe a lot. Joe's a smart guy, and I agree that if Buddy's super, super, super talented, and I know he had the thing at Bridgeport. I wrote about it.
Oddly aggressive. Oddly.
Yes, but here's the interesting thing about that. I talked to Brent Marks about it yesterday. And he told me something interesting. Bridgeport, with the way it's shaped, it's kind of flat and goes straight up.
You can't see.
You can't see. Now, I'm not sticking. Buddy made an aggressive move, and yes, he should have. Dusty Zomer, he should have known about where he was, but Buddy never saw him. Buddy told me that, and then Brent Marks said, I can understand that because I can't see people.
Because of the top wing, for those who don't get what he's saying, is like you're coming down the back straightaway, the top wing's there, and the upper half of the corner ahead of you is so much banked that a driver can literally be above your vision. Like he could be up the track. The top of the track you can't see from in the car because of the wing. That makes sense.
Yeah, when I was at PennLive.com and the whole Tony Stewart, Kevin Ward thing happened, Lance DeWeese let me get in his car, and I put a helmet on, and just from a visual standpoint, I took a video of it. I don't think people understand how bad your vision is out the right side of that car.
I've been saying, just bad vision in a race car, period. But, yeah, I don't know. I don't want to comment on that. I already commented on that situation, but.
Well, I mean, that's fine. But, I mean, it's still, the vision is bad.
Right.
And sometimes, and now you want to combine these tires. Now, look, again, Buddy it was way aggressive. He should have waited on, Joe's pet peeve. And mine kind of too. People pull sliders earlier than ever. And I think because it's so hard to pass. So I think that's why it happens now. and they don't clear them or they cut guys short or whatever the case may be. Tournament Sweet do it. Donnie Shots doesn't do it. But those guys have raced so long. I mean, let's face it. They're the best, most experienced guys. They're the elite guys. There's 3 elite guys in sprint car racing. In my opinion, there's only 3. That's it. And it's Donnie Shots, David Gravel, and Brad Sweet. So,
serious. Rico's not?
No. No,
Kyle's
I
not?
have criteria. I don't consider Kyle. Yes, I mean if Kyle raced more, yes. Obviously, Kyle, yes. But I don't consider him because he's a NASCAR driver. That's what he is.
Right.
He dabbles in sprint car racing, and but
makes his money and leaves.
Yeah, he does that.
People don't think he makes no money though. They think he just does it for the love, Jeremy.
He's not racing for free, I don't think.
Yeah, he sure didn't tell Baps that he wasn't coming for no reason, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, come on. I mean,
there's a price to pay for that promotional,
Well, I mean, look, Kyle doesn't owe anyone. I mean, this is much like, I always chuckle, and this is kind of a society thing. There's no owing, okay? He's made his way up the way he needed to. He's where he needs to be. He's a professional, and if he gets 40, 50%, whatever the deal he has worked out, hey, that's fine. He should be able to race for money just like everyone else. So I don't know where anybody would get that he owes anybody. I don't believe he owes anybody anything.
I didn't think he did. What do you mean? I was just talking about him making money off dirt, and people think he does it for fun.
Well, because they think he should, and I'm like, no, he should do it for money.
And he does.
Maybe, yeah. So, but no, to me, to be elite, you have to win crown jewels. You have to obviously win races. You have to beat good fields competition. There's got to be a certain amount of wins, quality wins, and obviously there's got to be a measure of longevity. Those 3 things, or that grouping of things, to me, is what makes a driver elite. And that's no disrespect to Rico or Brent Marks. I wrote a column last week on Brent Marks. I said he's not elite yet, but he's on his way. He's on his way. Got to have a couple more years, but I think Logan Schuchart, Carson Macedo. Look, they're all really good drivers. To me, I'm a harsh critic. Elite is another level. I put elite higher than the Hall of Fame.
Yeah. I got you.
Because, so, it's no disrespect to those guys, and I'm not saying they
It's no disrespect to Dak Prescott, but you're not Patrick
don't get me
Mahomes.
started there.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. Dak Prescott's not Patrick Mahomes, correct?
I don't know if Dak Prescott is in my top 10.
And that's what I mean. But Dak Prescott still is a good quarterback. I mean, maybe this is a bad comparison. What's another guy? C.J. Stroud. You're good. You could be great. You could be Mahomes, but you're not there yet. I mean, I'm just trying to get a comparison for people to understand. It seems like you're just mad now, but
no.
I shouldn't have brought up Dallas Cowboy football. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's painful for me.
I swear, I don't know how the old people they protected those Social Security payments with Tony Romo in Dallas. I guarantee you that one.
I actually like Tony Romo, believe it or not. I thought he was a good quarterback. I just think things just didn't like, sometimes too, and I'll go back to Jovan Schultz. There's a certain randomness, and I've seen it. I've seen so many sporting events. I've covered so many sporting events. There is a randomness that occurs that it just doesn't work out for certain people. Like if you're going to, so I didn't mind Tony Romo. I just didn't. I thought he was decent. Dak Prescott's decent. He's not. I mean,
He's not the guy.
Joe Burr. No, that's a good way to say it. He's not the guy.
And the guy comes in many different shapes and sizes. You know, the guy
Correct.
can be Kurt Warner. You know, the guy can
Sure.
be Ben Roethlisberger. The guy can be Donovan McNabb. Hell, the guy could be Nick Foles, for crying out loud. For a year, everybody's just looking for a championship. Yep. You know, the guy, but you could tell when they're, it's hard to tell when a guy is the guy, but it is easy to tell when they're not that guy. You know?
Yeah, I mean, sprint car drivers, to me, now I've gotten a couple wrong.
Is Noah Gass ever going to be that guy?
Probably
Dak Prescott.
Not.
He's a Dak Prescott. Continue.
Yeah, no. I mean, when I saw David Gravel for the first time in the '89G, I said that guy's the guy. When I saw Buddy and I called that one. That was a long time ago. When I saw Buddy Kofoid, I saw him turn 4 laps at Ocean Speedway in 2017. I said that guy's the guy. Now I missed on a couple. I mean, it's like the NFL draft. You're not always going to be 100%. But
Kenny Pickett.
I'll tell you what, David. Well, I don't know about that one yet. I mean, they're handcuffed by their offense. Their offensive coordinator is awful.
Well, this freaking sports card I pulled out the other day is going down in value because it's Kenny Pickett and he sucks all of a sudden. But continue. I'm not sorry.
well. I think you should probably listen to Joe and stop drawing him out of a hat.
Hey man, I made decent money doing this. He's over there doing it the slow way. I'm on the fast money lane. He's over there in the slow money lane. But anyways, continue.
Just remember, slow and steady wins a race, buddy.
Yeah, what race are we racing is the question. But anyway, did you lose your point?
No, I mean, you know what? Like I said, I'm not as mad tonight as I was last night. I think that's...
And the elite drivers. And that guy and not that guy. You know, that makes me think about something this year. You know, PA's had a lot of driver swappers over there. And obviously the marquee one of them all was this Macri situation. And I got to talk about this since it happened tonight. I thought that once they went their different ways, the team and Macri, that this was the time that the team was going to show we can do it without you, and that Macri was going to show I could do it without you as well. And the team went out and has done pretty damn good. I mean, Justin Sanders, if he was shopping himself for a national opportunity, he didn't check the win box, but he had the speed box. He had the potential to be that guy type of box. Now, based on Macri's, though, and I thought that coming to this Port Royal week, and that 71 car is good, I believe. It's got the Charlie Garrett motor and all that. There's one place that Anthony Macri can look like a damn superstar no matter what car he's in. That has to be Port Royal. It has to be Port Royal. And, I mean, normal, really, yesterday. And then tonight, what was that, Jeremy? What Anthony Macri self-spun in the B main at Port Royal and took out Donnie Shots.
What? Yeah, I'm sure Donnie wasn't too happy about that.
If they were showcasing each other, if the 39M was saying I could do it without you, and Anthony was saying I could be that guy without you, Anthony Macri's looking to be like not that guy.
Well, look, I've said this many, many, many times about a lot of different drivers. You got to have the right situation, and
not the guy. That guy don't.
Well, that's not always. Well, I'll give you an example. Was Greg Hodnett that guy?
That is attached to a person who is dead, and it's hard to properly judge how good a dead driver is.
Why can't I? I saw him for
I can't.
20 years.
I can't. Do you think he was that guy?
Yeah, he was that guy.
I'm not professed enough to say one way or the other. You obviously grew up watching him, so.
Well, it wasn't that. I covered him for his 18 years in Pennsylvania.
Okay, so he was that guy. Okay.
Now, here's the thing. I remember a car he got in, the 77, Al Hamilton, Hall of Fame owner, had crew chiefs, were really good. It didn't work out. It just didn't work. It wasn't anybody's fault. It just didn't gel. It didn't work. And they left. They went their separate ways. And, you know, everything was fine for both parties. I mean, Al Hamilton got it out of it soon after. But you had an owner who was that owner in the Hall of Fame, and you had a good crew chief, and you had that guy, and it didn't work out. Everybody thinks it should you just jump in a car and go, and it's all good. Well, that's not always the case. There's a lot of things that go into it. It's like any athlete. There is a mental aspect to being successful.
I heard that whole situation's over a mental aspect, but I guess we could continue.
Well,
skip over that.
Yeah. I mean, look, there's a lot of factors. You get into a family dynamic, and anything's possible. And look, I'm not going to go into what it was, what it wasn't. I'm just going to say, look, everybody knows there's a family dynamic there. I hopefully that gets, you know, everything's good with that. But look, I think there's some variables with Anthony. Number one, he got into 7BC, and different setup, everything's different. Okay, take some adjustments. Tell you what, he looked good at Knoxville. For the most part, he had some okay runs, probably not what he wanted. And then he gets into 71. He knows the car, probably a package he likes more, but okay, doesn't race enough. You're going from a guy who raced 80, 90 times a year to now he's racing every other week, maybe taking 2 weeks off. Bernie has admitted the new tire has him kind of thrown for a loop a little bit because he doesn't race enough.
Right.
I think there's some, and I'm not making excuses. It's a variable that's a real variable. There's things that make things happen a certain way. And I don't think it's necessarily anyone's fault because then you start to press. We've seen many drivers. I've seen drivers who are going to be in the Hall of Fame.
It seemed, though, that there was a connotation that this necessarily, like you said, Anthony Macri was a guy 89 a year, races a year, and you also, you know, even though the 71 wasn't out there racing as much, it kind of gave, at the time, it had a feeling of almost like a Jacob Allen situation where Anthony just didn't want to race as much, had other things he wanted to go do as well.
Correct. So, I
mean, is it the car not racing enough, or is it the drive of the driver maybe he could be that guy, but there's other things that he wants to do, and being that guy ain't that important to him?
Well, and I think if Anthony gets in the right situation, and I think if Anthony's comfortable, I think you're going to see Anthony Macri be Anthony Macri. I don't think that. I mean, look at Anthony Macri's progression. People forget what he came from. In that car, they really did build that team. It was tailored to him, what he was comfortable with.
They yard sold it a lot at Port, didn't they?
What's that?
They yard sold it a lot at Port in his early years, right?
He flipped a couple times. I know he flipped, I believe, at the Grove one time. It was hard. But he had Moon Byers with him. I think he helped. I think he's went through crew chiefs. Look, he had Jim Shuttlesworth. Last year he had 3 different crew chiefs and won with all of them. Okay, you know how hard that is? In 1 year, he had Jim Shuttlesworth, Bernie Stugin, and Ryan Hand, and he won with all of them. You can't. Now they're all 3 good. Okay, they're all 3 of them are good, and they all used notes that were already in place. But still, that's not easy to do. And I think Anthony sometimes gets a bad rap because people just expect him to do the same shit he did in the 39M, and it's a different animal. He has to build up to it again, and whether he's in that car again or not, I mean, either way.
And who knows what's happening in his real life? You know, real life, the different animal may have evolved. You know, the different animal.
Correct.
He may not, no matter the perfect situation comes along, if mentally you're not there, you know, you're not gonna be there. If the biggest thing in your life isn't winning that race going into that corner, you have a hard time beating the guy whose it is.
Correct. And again, it's just not. I think sometimes fans and they get on message boards or whatever, and they just think it's easy, and it's really not. And I'm not saying, I'm not trying to make it like they're coal miners, but it isn't easy. It isn't easy to go beat David Gravel, beat Donnie Shots, beat Brad Sweet, and look, Tyler Courtney, you know, it's just getting better and better. We saw that tonight. You know, so it's not easy to beat these guys. It's not easy to go line up against Kyle Larson and beat him. It's just not. And Brent Marks, guys like that, it's not easy to beat those guys. And and they all have good crew chiefs. They all have good equipment. You know, all the stuff we said earlier. Anthony Macri will be fine, whatever he decides to do. And if he decides to go a different direction, so be it. It's up to him. But I think he can be that guy. I do think Anthony Macri can be that guy.
Okay, back to that guy. This should be a new show me and you do called That Guy.
That guy?
That guy. Yeah, that's a great name. I'm going to trademark that tonight. Submission. Back to that guy, and you just said Shuttlesworth, and you were at the track at the Tusky 50. I don't know if you can report on the mental health of Devin Borden after he wrecked the car. I hear it gets pretty loud over there near the 23. But Devin Borden, is he ever going to be that guy? Because he's new to the scene over there for y'all, and now he's the Port Royal champion in the first try. First real full season there every week, or is it second? Did he do a full season in the Hefner? I'm not sure.
No, he was not. Wasn't a full season. This is his first full season, I think, in that car.
Yeah, so first full season, used to 3/8, little quarter-mile Cottage Grove tracks his whole career. Shows up under the biggest circle in the world, known as PA local sprint car racing. Goes to the biggest track that most people consider nowadays, in Port Royal. Starts racing their weekly, wins the championship. Is he that guy, or is mental health going to take another driver out of the PA area away from racing? Jacob Allen, Macri, and now this.
I don't know if he can be that guy. I will say this about Devin Borden. If you would have asked me that April, May, June, I would have said yes. He was really good early. There's been a big drop off with that team, and I don't. Look,
is that the extracurriculars' fault? That video I saw going around, they were talking about wrecking them or something. What was that all about?
Well, that was not a good look. It was certainly not a good look for the team, in my opinion. But Jim Shuttlesworth is. I actually, when I was young, Jim Shuttlesworth, I remember watching him run a late model at Silver Springs.
A late model?
This just shows all. Oh yeah, he's
damn, late model champion. Hey, I like him more than I already did. You know, he did defend me pretty well at Selinsgrove. He's a decently sized guy.
Oh yeah, you do not want to. He's the last guy in the pit area you want to tangle with, I think.
Well, but, I think that's why Devin takes it and don't fight back. You know what I'm saying? But Jim was a 358 or a limited late model driver at Silver Springs, and he was one of the best. And then he jumped in a super sportsman, and he could win in that. And he jumped in a sprint car. Jim Shuttlesworth sounds like a bad motherfucker.
He's a good crew chief. You got to. He can be hard, but I think.
Well, that's what I've heard. That it's very loud around the 23, and I heard he was that way with Macri. There are good and bad things to that. You know, I'm sure you were an NFL reporter. I'm sure you saw some coaches rip some players' ass.
Yeah, I saw a lot of stuff.
Is that well, I'm just saying that whole, even though it may look, and like I said, everybody's heard about it, how he can go off on the drivers that he's around. Sometimes that kind of rip a player's ass works.
Sometimes it does. Look, there's a lot of people who responded to Bobby Knight. Always remember that. A lot of
Good
people,
example. Throw the damn chair.
Yeah, Isaiah Thomas responded to Bobby Knight. Other players responded to Bobby Knight. Now, not everybody can.
Right.
So, again, now you're back to the dynamic of it's got to work. It's got to be the right situation. Do I think it can work? Yes, I do think it can work. Obviously, this year, he was third in the Outlaw race at Lincoln Speedway earlier this year. He won races, won the Port Royal Championship. Although I expected him to win the Port Royal Championship, who was going to beat him? I mean,
Steve
let's
Buckwood.
be honest. Stop it. He doesn't run every week.
I think that's your point. Who does?
Yeah, and that's what I mean. So I'm not a big point title guy for tracks. I'm just not. They don't mean as much as they used to. Sorry, but that's the truth. No, I'm not diminishing what he did at Port Royal. He's very good. In fact, the race where he passed Lance DeWeese in the last corner, phenomenal. Phenomenal.
Right.
Phenomenal.
Well, and those are glances of that guy, type stuff.
But the guys who are that guy can duplicate it over and over and over again.
Well, wouldn't Devin Borden have to get picked up by a traveling team? Because that team's going to stay local, correct?
I
actually branch out and do more than a Port Royal Championship.
I don't know what the long-term plan is there. I think eventually they will branch out a little more. I think they want to bring him along. I mean, it's like anything else. I mean, remember, this is his first full year in that car. Really still kind of green to the central Pennsylvania scene. It wasn't
2.5 mile. 2.5 mile.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't think that's etched in stone yet. I don't think he needs to necessarily get picked up by somebody else. I mean, those rides aren't. I mean, we're gonna
think about this, Jeremy. If that team, because they got good equipment, they got good personnel, even though it is a Bobby Knight type coach, over there, they got good personnel to get wins, and be fast. They got a driver. If you loaded up a truck with a 410 and a 360, and you went to Florida in February, and you ran all the 410 and 360 events they got down there, that team, I could say, could win some races.
I would not take him to Volusia yet.
Oh, come on. But what about East Bay 360, King of the 360? I mean, come on now. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, yeah. No. Yeah. No,
get the experience. Why wouldn't you go get the experience? I mean, they've run pretty damn bad down the street at Williams Grove. I mean, there's been some bad nights for that team.
Yeah, no, I just, Volusia, man. East Bay, yes. Volusia, no. Volusia's the fastest track in the country. To me, I'll tell you what, you wreck hard there.
So you think his driving style might get him hurt?
Yeah. At Volusia, I get nervous. There's very few tracks. I mean, I've seen thousands and thousands. I've been going to races since 1977. Again, just shows you I'm old. But there's very few tracks where I kind of wince a little bit. Volusia, I'm kind of like, ooh. When I watch him around there, that Casey Kane wreck, I still see that.
Right.
I still see that. And I know Dale Blaney's wrecking the Zemco car going out over. People forget. Joey Saldana went out over in sort of the same spot in the 17 a couple days earlier. So that place is so fast. The air is so good. And look, it's exciting. It's the funny thing is about it, and we talk about parity and all that. So it races surprisingly well when it slicks off.
Yeah, but it's got to get there.
I've seen some tremendous races there. Donnie Schatz from like 16th to win at Volusia. I never thought I'd see that. But no, it races surprisingly well. I like going there, but I'm not ready to see Devin there yet.
You want to do it because of the wrecks aspect, the hard wreck. Do you think that drivers that come from shorter tracks are, and this may have to do with California drivers being so good, and PA drivers maybe not when they branch out, is, do you think that drivers that grow up on shorter tracks and race full-size 410 sprint cars and never really experience a 120-mile-per-hour flip or 140 going into 3 at port or something like that, they never experience that. So by the time they get to a bigger track, they have the nerve to pull moves off and to drive so aggressive because they've never really experienced that real hit. Like those guys who may grow up in PA racing on bigger tracks, anytime they wreck, it's big.
Well, I think California drivers are so good because they race in cornfields out there, and there's a lot of shenanigans out there that when they go race other places, they get on these joints that are so smooth, and I would say easier to drive. I think their eyes get big. It's like a Major League Baseball hitter hitting a softball.
Yeah, it's like taking a 30-mile-per-hour corner at 60 versus exiting the highway. You know.
Yeah, I just think it's easy to them.
But the nerve aspect is there. The fear does affect things. Why was Hunter Schuerenberg getting 20-mile-per-hour runs on Brent Marks today and not taking that momentum to the inside twice? Because he's scared he's going to maybe go that way and might get hit and there could be a wreck. There's no other reason to not make that move on the track.
Yeah, that I don't know. I can't speak for Hunter Schuerenberg.
You know what I'm talking about, though?
Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying. I just, again, boy, that's hard to say.
I think it's that fear aspect. I think that's fear. I think that's worry of something going wrong.
I can't deny it. I know this. Those California guys, they just don't. I mean, you see the high limit races are now like California local shows. Yeah,
it's pretty bad.
I mean, it's not pretty bad. They're good. I mean, look at Bridgeport. Who was the top? Who was the top 5? Well, Rico, Kyle.
I know in the dash Corey it was all in California.
Yeah, Corey Eliason was 3rd. Buddy Kofoid was battling for the lead. I mean, look at Justin Sanders goes out there. He has 3 second-place finishes in high limit. I just think they get out on these tracks and they're so manicured. They're so, and that's no disrespect to any of the other. I just think if you grow up on something where you're bouncing around, you've got some weapons in front of you, and you got to dodge bullets. I think they're going to be hardened, so to speak. You're going to be used to it. I just think it's. And look, those outlaw carts. Think about this, and Joe can back me up on this. Look at some of the fields from yesteryear. You know, they were loaded with all the guys who are winning now, and they're just basically they're not afraid to race with anyone.
You know what?
There's
another California driver that Joe. We were talking about drivers and prospects and who's really, really good at they had a shot or this, that, or the other. Who's top level talent? I think a guy who could potentially be on a Larson, Rico level, and you may laugh when I say this, even a Kofoid level, right up there with him, and really in anything, Logan Seavey.
I like Logan Seavey.
Logan Seavey, and he was when Kyle went out and the outlaw kart scenes up there, the Seaveys came along and they were. He basically did the same thing as Kyle. Went to the midget ranks, ran a truck, almost won at Eldora in the truck. The 4 Crown last year, he jumped in that 11 car, almost won the race. I feel like these USAC guys are like you said. No, I really don't think that any of those USAC guys want to be over there. The older generation of guys. I think that if a real sprint car offer hit the table for some of these non-wing guys, they would be out of the sport instantly. I think Logan Seavey's, if we're going to start pulling some drivers who could drive very fast that aren't in rides or a ride of their own, not only California, but I think USAC guys, a few of them in there, a guy like a Logan Seavey could do some damage in wing cars. Look at Tyler Courtney. Look what he did.
Well, I hope that Kevin Swindell puts Logan Seavey in a wing car.
I don't know why that didn't happen. Why did that not happen?
Well, I think Seavey has commitments with USAC, doesn't he? He had some commitments this year, so
he couldn't commit to some midweek races at high limit.
Well, they had Justin Sanders already.
Right. So when that ended, why wasn't Logan in the car for the remaining?
You'd have to ask Kevin Swindell. That I don't know.
That's
Now,
what I'm saying. Why wasn't that him from the beginning?
Oh, and Kevin also has had some health. He's still trying to get his health together and
he did
and
say
whatnot.
that.
So I think, but Logan Seavy's. People forget this about Tyler Courtney. Tyler Courtney drove a wing car before he drove wingless.
Right.
So Tyler Courtney, and look, I think he's an outlier. I think Tyler Courtney is very, very good.
Yeah.
I think he's a guy. If you want me to say a guy who could be elite, who people don't talk about in that respect, I think Tyler Courtney's that guy.
Not his off-track tactics, in my opinion, but his on-track tactics. 100%. He could be. The last 2 years, I think I've been asking myself, when are they just going to go to the Outlaw tour? I feel like it surprised people last year when they went for a second.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to see. He's going to run outlaw races the rest of the year. He's going to be at Charlotte. We saw what he can do tonight. There's no reason to think he can't win tomorrow.
Well, sorry, I spoke like I was in a normal sprint car world, Jeremy. Like, can he go for the Outlaw Championship? That's no longer the championship that you want to go win. Or what is an Outlaw Championship come next year now? High Limits here to take over with the big dick known as Kyle. It's coming.
Well, we don't know that yet.
Bend over and take it.
I think, okay.
It's
regardless
over.
Of what happens, regardless of what happens with High Limit, and I've heard you guys go on about the Outlaws are not dead. They're not going away. They're not in turmoil. They're not. One thing about the Outlaws.
Are you on the World Racing Group payroll with those comments?
Well, if I am, I'm not getting paid enough.
Well, that's exactly what an undercover agent would say.
No,
you're the CIA operative for the World of Outlaws. Continue.
No. I've actually said I have been critical of the Outlaws. As recent as last year, I thought the way they handled the million was ridiculous. With that counted against their 4 races, it was absolutely ridiculous to me. Don't tell me how you're doing what's best for sprint car racing on Wing Nation and then do that. But here's what I do understand about the World of Outlaws. Still the closest thing we have to a governing body. They have this thing where no driver and no official is bigger than the series. It's plug and play. And that's the way they run their operation. I had somebody say to me tonight in the pit area, they didn't notice a difference last week at Williams Grove with the change in race director.
Why would you? It's plug and play.
The one thing the Outlaws do very well, nobody's bigger than the team. Nobody's bigger than the brand. Seems like we hear that every Sunday. Nobody's bigger than the Shield.
Right. No team is bigger than the NFL.
So, or one player. So, now,
Colin Kaepernick figured that out.
Well, I mean, I have my opinions on that, which is, he has
the greatest American thing he ever did. Yep. Sorry, I ran over.
No, he has a right to do whatever he did. That's his right.
And the people have a right to have a problem with it too.
Yes, they do. Absolutely. And then on top of that, now, I really had a problem with Colin Kaepernick, though, because he had a tryout and then moved it. Okay, don't tell me how you want to play and then move the workout. Okay, that's crap. Okay,
low effort.
You lost me there. Well, and then on top of that, you signed a $20 million contract with Nike, which last I checked isn't exactly the pinnacle of human rights as a company. So a lot of it, it's kind of like Aaron Rodgers getting mad at Travis Kelce for Pfizer, and yet the team he plays for is run by Johnson and Johnson.
That is funny.
Seems kind of hypocritical. It's hilarious.
But that damn Michael Jordan Nike signing movie was great. Ben Affleck was on point.
I'll tell you what, it's a fabulous movie. I saw it. I actually went to a high limit race, and I think it was the first Kokomo race, and it got rained out. And Dave Byro and I went to it. It was really good.
It was really really damn good. I've never been so into a shoe company before, so you kind of hurt my feelings there when you were against them.
I'm not against any. I'm not.
Well, they're human rights activists or whatever. I'm just saying.
It's the truth. It's hypocrisy. You like the word hypocrisy. You throw that around a lot.
It's a very true word. It does not lose its thump.
And I'm a big movie guy. Like I could, when I had Buddy Kofoid on a couple weeks ago, we talk movies as much as we talk racing. Because, I'm a big movie guy, and I kind of like the simple things. I'm movie, football, and I'm good.
You can't talk to Joe about movies.
Oh no, Joe watches movies. Joe does his movies.
Which year?
No. It doesn't matter. He knows what Shawshank Redemption is.
Yeah. Well, the screen's got to be color for me to watch it. That's not a diversity.
No.
When I say color, guys out there, after our talk earlier, I'm talking about the colors TV.
I'll tell you what. You want to go see a good movie? Really good. Best movie I've seen this year so far is Oppenheimer.
I saw it. That is good.
Movie.
That is good.
It's just phenomenal. I was very, very.
But it's talking about quantum physics, and people don't want to think that much. Quantum physics is real, man. It unlocks the spiritual realm.
Well, the thing for me is when I watch a movie, I want to be able. I don't want to know what's going to happen.
Right.
A half hour.
Sometimes trailers will ruin a movie just because of that.
Yeah. Well, I want a twist or a turn. A movie like A Beautiful Mind with Russell Crowe. You didn't know that he was a schizophrenic in the movie. There's different kinds of movies too. There's movies you want to think about. There's things that are really good or just well done. Of course, being a writer, I like the writing. I know a guy who wrote in Hollywood a little bit. The guy who wrote Seven, my ex-wife works for an attorney, and his buddy's the guy who wrote Seven and directed it. He was really good. And then there's just popcorn flicks. You just want to be entertained.
Well, it's funny, you mentioned you mentioned SprintCarUnlimited.com. You go release this story, release that story. And you're talking about how these Hollywood actors, and you've been in the room with Tony Romo when they were doing Illuminati sacrifices and all this stuff. What is your background on all this? Obviously, you're a gatekeeper for the gambling industry, but where are you even from? What did you even do? I mean, obviously, you've been into dirt racing for a long time, but it sounds like you've done something else. Because the business model you talk about, when I release a story, I'd say this, I say that. That's normal. But we both know this dirt world's not normal. So these words and phrases, they don't know what you mean. Like, I got to pay to click a link? The fuck you talking about?
Yeah, God forbid. Everybody thinks I'm getting rich. I'd like to know where that money is.
It's in that $2.99. No, I'm just playing. But
look, my background is I'm from Lebanon, Pennsylvania. All I did was go to community college. From there I went. Now I read a lot. I don't quite as much as I want to now. In fact, I want to read. I got to finish. This is for Joe. I got to finish reading the Beatle book, which it's one of the greatest stories there is. You won't see that ever happen again. What happened with the Beatles, and I wasn't even around for their music. Like, I wasn't born or I didn't, like Joe is 20 years Joe's 15 years older than I am. So, but I worked at an insurance company, always wanted to be a writer since I was a kid. And then I just picked it up and did it. I went to the Patriot News, PennLive.com, the third largest paper in Pennsylvania. I was a phoner. All I did was answer the phone and take box scores. And then I learned to write just by watching the other writers. And I was one of 3 guys in the company to ever go from being a phoner to a full-time writer. And it's harder because you're not formally trained. So I had to learn. While I was working at the insurance company, I worked 20 hours at the paper answering the phones, which turned into 40 hours, and I got paid for 20 because you got to sacrifice, you know. And so then I worked my way up, and then I ended up covering the NFL for 5 years. I covered high school, college wrestling. That's where actually I knew about Flow. I dealt with Flow in that arena before racing.
But they destroyed that arena or something like that, right? There was some big sue or something. Didn't they get sued or something?
Well, yeah, I'm actually looking at some paperwork now, but that's a story for another time.
What do you mean?
I just got a text. I got a text from somebody about something at Flow, but someday I'll write a book of all the texts.
What do you mean? Hold on. Somebody's getting sued? Is this some kind of secretary issue? Is there a divorce going on? Does the wife know?
No.
Is the secretary the future Mrs.? What's going on? Did the secretary leave because she's not the future Mrs.? What are you talking about? I thought there was something in the college realm with Flo that went south.
Not that I know of. No, they're always dealing with rights and stuff with TV because, like in Pennsylvania is one of the biggest high school wrestling states in the country. California, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, really big. And I guess there's something with PCN who was broadcasting state tournament and Flo did. I don't know enough about it because I'm not in that anymore. And so for me to speak on it would be wrong. But you know,
you did the wrestling. You said NFL, so you was actually covering real world stuff.
Yes. I've interviewed. Yeah, I mean, a lot of guys. I mean, a lot of. So yeah, I mean, I did that.
Big guys. I mean, is it weird being in the racing locker room and everybody's average height's 5'7"? I mean,
I'll tell you what. It's so different. You know, it's funny. People say to me, well, do you get nervous talking to these guys? I said, no. I mean, go try interviewing Ray Lewis. Go try interviewing Terrell Suggs. You know, guys like that. I mean, these are intense guys. Like and you don't get a lot of time with
come
them.
on now. Danny Dietrich's a big guy. What is he, 6'1"?
Yeah, he's a lot taller than me. I like to.
Well, I don't think he's 6'1". He's maybe 6 feet, but I mean he's a big guy. In the NFL, 6'1's huge, right?
No.
So how big is Terrell Suggs compared to Danny Dietrich? What are we thinking here? Let's give a visual.
I'll tell you what, Terrell Suggs might be the biggest man I've ever seen in my life. Just broad. Just
so double the width of a Danny Dietrich.
Oh my God, yes. Solid muscle. Just a beast.
And he was 6'4"?
Something like that. He was humongous. The tallest guy I've ever talked to is Peyton Manning.
I thought you would have said Drew Bledsoe. I talked to Drew Bledsoe one time. That's the linkiest alien ever, but continue.
The shortest is probably Drew Brees. Well, no, Ray Rice. Ray Rice was
not
short.
Doug Flutie.
I never interviewed Doug Flutie. I was after Doug.
But the
Flutie.
tallest is Peyton Manning.
Yeah, I felt like it. Like I was stretching my tape recorder up. Now I'm
really?
5'6". I'm 5'6". Look goofy. I'll tell you who's was big. Was Ben Roethlisberger. Was huge. It's no wonder why he was so hard to bring down. He was huge. He was humongous. When they played the Jets in AFC Championship game. I went out to Heinz Field, and I was underneath the team was underneath the stands in a like cement like hallway type thing, and I was walking down the one tunnel, and I heard this slap. It's like a big slap, and it was Ben Roethlisberger throwing passes to a wide receiver in the hallway, and he's just. And I came around the corner, and I never realized how big he was until that night because I was standing like right next to him. Every time I've ever talked to him, he was behind a pew, or he was behind some kind of microphone or something on a stage or whatever. You know, in the press conference, so you don't really get a sense of how big they are. But I stood 10 feet away from him. He's humongous. And there's
so he was breaking fingers, basically.
Yeah, Tim Tebow's huge. Huge.
Now,
rip.
I grew up in Dallas, Texas. Football was big. Obviously, in Texas, it was, for me at least, racing in the spring, summer, and fall, and then football in the winter type deal. Our big deal was, I guess, that when I was growing up, obviously it was the Stars time, you know, and Larry Allen was always pushed as this big, bad son of a bitch, giant human. Did you never interact with any of these offensive linemen? Because, you know, I've heard how big quarterbacks and all these people are, but I hear the offensive linemen are just like unbelievably just too big of a person.
Some of them are. You don't really. It's funny. The offensive linemen truly are the forgotten men.
Yes.
But they don't parade them out. Like if I covered a Ravens game, you go into the press room. They bring two guys out and Harbaugh. Okay, so you get the coach and two guys, and usually it's Joe Flacco. You get Terrell Suggs, maybe whoever the stars of the game were. And then about 10 minutes later, you go to the locker room. Well, the linemen really aren't making plays. Like, you're going to your skill, the guy who, like DJ Moore last night for Chicago Bears had 230 yards receiving. Okay, you're going to go there. Now, my deal was I wanted to go to the people who no one went to, because then you could get something original. And you had to figure out who the guys were who were colorful, who would talk. Colin Jenkins for the Eagles was one. LaShawn McCoy grew up in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. So obviously I covered LaShawn McCoy when he was with the Eagles because he was a Harrisburg kid and I worked for the Harrisburg Patriot News. So that was an easy one. He's kind of colorful. So you see him on FS1 now. No. I don't get that close to people. I keep it pretty. I can tell you, I've only eaten lunch or dinner in my whole writing career with a race car driver where it wasn't formal twice.
Wow.
I keep that pretty, Now there's some.
Is that a security issue? I'm assuming you. Obviously, everybody saw me getting attacked. I tried to tell Dirt Tracker that happens to people all the time. Has that happened to you much? You got 3 guys rolled up on you before, or what?
I've had guys roll up on me. Yeah, they didn't like what I wrote, or and I really don't care. I mean, I got.
But if you were to go to those after night activities, that's where the threat happens.
I don't go because I've never been to Dingus. Never.
Really?
Reason? Yeah, don't do it. Don't do it. Because after the races, I write. My deal is at SprintCarUnlimited.com. Everybody go purchase a subscription. It's cheap. It's my deal there is it's got to be there next day. I'm from a daily newspaper background. So when people pulled up their newspaper, when they got their newspaper the next day, stories were there. I wrote on deadline. Like I had to write 600, 700-word stories, sometimes in 15 minutes. You know, when you go to an NFL game, when the NFL game's over, you're writing right away, and you better come up with something. It's a little bit of pressure. I don't do it like, you know, and I'm not disparaging magazines or area auto racing news or anything, but they're weeklies. Like if I had 3 or 4 days to write something, I wouldn't know what to do with myself.
Right.
Like tonight, I just walked in the door, so I got about 5 minutes yet. But I'm going to process my videos. I don't know, not a lot happened tonight, so I'll probably just do 5 closing
It sucks
thoughts
when
from
that
the
happens.
race.
My headline would be Anthony Macri takes out Donnie Shots.
No,
I couldn't believe that happened when that happened. I couldn't believe my eyes.
I think worse is they made the wrong call. I thought Brian Brown was past the flag stand for the checker, and then Brian Brown ends up breaking on the restart and doesn't end up in the A-main.
Isn't it you got to have 6 cars crossed to be the official end or something like that?
You know what? Here's where maybe a different race director, it becomes a different scenario. That I don't know. And I was up in the corner. I was up in turn 4. So, but a lot of people were saying that he crossed. Now, does that mean that usually the number to cross the line is for the first lap to be complete? I've never heard it at the end. If the leader I've never seen it. If the leader passes, it's official.
That is an interesting thing. At the end, if there's a race for the win, yeah, or anything like that, usually how that checkered finishes, when it's finished, is when that leader crosses, like you're saying.
Correct. But so, again, my training is just, and I do things a certain way. You know this. I don't, sometimes, to me, it's better to be seen and not heard. I tend to, I mean, I say stuff, but I kind of tend to put it on the website. You know, I'll write something or a column or
and
whatever.
Then you look at my stupid videos and you're like, you're an idiot. This is why you got free YouTube. That's the only reason is you're on YouTube, because it's free.
Sometimes I've called you an idiot, but I'll also tell you. What's my phrase for you? I said, less Alex Jones, more Stephen A. Smith.
There's no Alex Jones involved, okay? No. Just because I come on here and talk intellectually about the real conspiracy I can't even say it, of the real conspiracies of the world, does not mean I'm Alex Jones. I guess maybe it's full of shit. That's why I couldn't get it out. The spirit came over me and said, "Don't say it." The forked tongue, the power.
I think with you, I think sometimes it's valid, and I think sometimes it's just coincidence, and it's
entertainment.
Use that. Well, okay, but now we're talking about something different.
I take it as entertainment. That's why I always say I get on here and just say what I think. Never said come to me for the truth. People say that I speak the truth. I just was speaking. First of all, I do love speculation. I believe that facts are boring and speculation is fun. It's real.
That's your phrase. That's your if on your tombstone. On your tombstone, it's going to say facts are boring, speculation is fun.
It's
but
true.
See, I can't do that.
Why? Because they're going to beat you up?
No, I don't care about that. No, I'm not going to get beat up. No.
What would you do if you did get beat up?
I would hope I wouldn't. I've never thought about it.
Okay.
Look, now I've been
you're doing facts.
I do facts because to me, my job is to tell the truth, but be factual. Because in the newspaper business, you can't be. You've got to do that. You can't just be out there throwing shit against the wall and hope it's right. You better have your fact. I covered a couple embezzlement cases. You can't have that stuff wrong. You can't.
Right.
I mean, you can't just throw spaghetti against the wall and hope it sticks. I mean, it's got to be factual. One thing, and I will say this: I've had people go online, and I've been called every name in the book. People think I'm getting rich. I live in a 650 square foot apartment. I don't have a bunch of money. I'm trying to grind it out. Hopefully it turns into a great success. That's, we started the pay-per-view thing with Mike Mount and Dirt Track Digest, the Sprint Car Unlimited.tv. But we do it on a very, we want people at the track. We want to be an alternative, not a main thing for fans. So we hope people buy it. And, yeah, we want to make money, and I want to make money, but everything on my site's factual. There's no rumors.
But this is also true, factual needs proof most of the time. And I would also say that there are a lot of things that are true that happen and you can discuss, but the statement of it's not true unless you can prove it in court is real as well. And there's some stuff out there that is truth. You can speak truth and speak something that's true without proof, because proof is sometimes hard to get.
Yeah, no. In that
you
case,
could be saying the truth and not have the proof for it in court.
Correct. And there's a fine line. I've always said, I got to have a source. And my rule of thumb is 2. I go one above one source. I go to 2 sources. Anything I write has to have 2 sources. And that even this year, I got one wrong this year. I'll tell you this quick story. The Tyler Courtney thing. I took a beating because I said Tyler Courtney was out for the year. Well, the reason I said that was because I had 2 sources very close to that situation tell me he was.
Right, that sucks.
And it burned me.
That sucks.
I was mad.
And you got to hide the fucker who burnt you, and then you got to decide if you ever listen to him again, and you probably shouldn't. So.
No, it was the 2 people who told me it was an honest mistake. And by the way, I then went up to Tyler Courtney the week of the fair, and I apologized to him. And I said, "Hey, man, I was told that," and he was, credit to Tyler Courtney. Tyler Courtney was very, very good about it. He said, "No, man." He said, "Look," he said, "I was mad at everybody at that point. I was mad at the world because I was injured." And I said, "Look, I didn't reach out to you because I heard, you were, obviously you have medications and stuff. You have appointments, and I thought the 2 were good." And I said, and he says, "No, you could have called me." He said, "I was fine." He said, "But I understand." He said, I don't hold it against you." And, I interviewed him tonight. So that to me means more. Having the respect of the drivers means a lot to me, because, look, they're doing a job. I'm doing a job. When they talk to me, they know that if they tell me something off the record, it's off the record. If they tell me
So you're basically a bunch of dogs on the same leash.
It's not a leash. It's ethics. I mean, people sometimes think that just because you have ethics, you're controlled by somebody. No. There is an ethical. See, here's the big problem, Chaz. People don't know what real journalism is. I use real journalism because I was in the world of real journalism, where if you didn't have ethics, you got, like, I'm embarrassed. I'll tell you what embarrasses me, and this is, so I'll talk about it another time. I don't have enough time. I'm embarrassed by some of the media I see in politics. They're an embarrassment to their trade. They should quit and go work at McDonald's, because because Fox News, CNN, and some of the stuff that they peddle, the agenda and whatever it is,
it's panhandling the agenda.
It's a joke. I'm embarrassed by it. Now, by the way, not all media is bad. I would encourage people, your local media, your local newspapers, those are your best ones because they're smaller and don't control.
We all know that the best ones are guys on YouTube. We all know this. That's where you'll find reputable people like Joe Rogan and reputable people like Alex Jones and Andrew Tate. So the internet and YouTube is the best way, and I am the closest thing to this political media that he hates of dirt racing. But anyway, continue.
No, I do not hate you, despite what everybody, I think, look,
you won't tell me to my face. Let's do a match race, 305s, me, you, and Dirt Tracker.
Oh, I'm not getting in a race car. I don't belong in there. I know my lane.
Oh,
I know my lane.
You've restricted your life.
I'll tell you what I would get in. You know what I would get in? I've always wanted to drive a Legend.
Oh, those are dangerous.
I don't care. They're cool looking. I like like the Central, and I can get us Legend cars. I would rather strap into a 410 than a Legend. That's a dangerous race car. You know how many backs break in those things? It's a dangerous race car. You know what? We'll race at Lincoln or Babs. But no, I would get in a Legend.
I gotta have people with steel chairs. We're promoting this.
We might have to have wheelchairs so we can by the time we're done. But
I still think we got to do something like you hit me with the chair. One of your buddies does, and I'm in the hospital like the old Stone Cold and Vince McMahon where he hits him with the shitter can. That was classic.
I'm not. That's not my bag. I didn't.
It's a bag waiting.
Well, I've always said I'm not good at promoting myself. Somebody told me that the other day. You need to get out there and promote. I just write stories. I try and be factual. Now, by the way, I will write something based on facts that's very opinionated. I've written some stuff that has gotten me in trouble. I got kicked out of tracks already.
High Limit Outlaws, is it happening? Let's get you in trouble.
What's that?
High Limit Outlaws All-Stars is All-Stars High Limit a done deal?
Come on.
I will make a snippet of this if you answer truthfully. Or answer yes. I'm making a snippet.
I do not think it's a done deal yet. No.
Should it?
Everybody's jumping the gun. Should it be? Well, what do you mean?
The All-Stars website does not have an SSL certificate right now. It's for sale. I do not believe it's done yet, and I think people are jumping the gun. That being said, it may get done, but again, is it good, bad, or indifferent? I don't think it's any of those. I just don't. I think people are getting way ahead of themselves on stuff. So I'm just going to their website for everyone to see. This thing right here that says SSL certificate, it's a not secure connection. You know what that means, Jeremy. You run websites.
Oh, yeah.
The end is near, Jeremy. The end is near.
The end is near.
That's what that says, Jeremy. That's what that says. Why are you laughing?
I'm just laughing at you.
Is it good for sprint car racing? Is it good for sprint car racing if it happens? And they try to go up against the Outlaws and do whatever people speculate they may try to do.
I think there's room for it. I think it's yet to be determined if it would be good or bad. I think there's room for it. I think there's room for both.
Now, is there is it for the at that point will it be for the love of the sport or for the love of money?
Look,
and power.
I think there's it's both. Everybody wants to make a living. What does it matter? But I also think there's philosophy involved. Look, there's different philosophies on how to do stuff, and I think there's room for all of that. Unlike most people in Central PA, sorry to alienate Central PA people, it's a very we don't like change area.
And diversity.
I'm not like that. Depends where you go. I don't mind change. Look, I gave up my job at the newspaper voluntarily to do what I'm doing.
Well, I would just go to say that this is and people could say this, that, or the other. This is an ego-driven sport. There's not a race car or driver on the track that is not out there in some egotistical way of, I want this, I want to win, I want championships, I helped that car get on there, I sponsored that guy, I own that car, I won that race. It's an ego-driven sport. So that's why I would speculate that part of this is egotistical as well.
Oh, I think there's a part of it. I think, on both sides, obviously feelings get hurt, so on and so forth. But I don't think you can be good at a sport and not have an ego. Any sport.
For sure. You can't survive and not have an ego. You got to want to compete.
So I don't think I'm not one of these people who think, oh my God, this is IRL and kart. I don't buy that.
What is the financial significance in a partnership with Flow? This, above all, is a streaming war, correct?
Well, there's those two. Look, Flow and Dirt Vision they're not going to be going and breaking bread anytime soon.
Well, that's what I say. It's like, but the point is, in this sprint car industry, we got a few fighters. It's almost like what mixed martial arts is dealing with right now with Francis Ngannou. The fighters want a little bit more money, and there's only one platform to see them, and now these other alternative platforms are willing to pay them a bunch of money to leave and come to theirs so that they can sell the stream to the stars of mixed martial arts. The stars of sprint car racing is similar to UFC, where all the stars that people want to pay to see are over there. So Flow, with Brad Sweet and Kyle, that's what I'm saying. This is trying to get those guys over so they can make money. It's a streaming thing.
I don't think any of us know what the true involvement of Flow is. But yeah, I mean, look, again, Dirt Vision and Flow, we see it at Eldora every time. USAC and the Outlaws are there. We have the whole, you gotta, I wouldn't do that, by the way. If I was at a track, say I had 410s at BAPS, and there were modifieds there on a different streaming service, I would tell the other streaming service to do the whole thing. I wouldn't do it. It's clunky.
Right.
It's clunky. It's terrible.
Yeah, what Colin Cowherd said about the Yankees was a good point. He said, just enjoy the sport, just love it. If you want to bitch about something, bitch about the Yankees games being on 7 different streaming services and it being hard for fans to access and watch the games. That's kind of what you're saying in the same aspect.
Yeah, I'm just not getting involved in that. I hate to. I have enough to worry about. I don't need to be worried about.
For the record, so everybody knows what's going on, it is SprintCarUnlimited.com, but there's a .tv, and Jeremy Elliott is officially a part of the evil world of streaming that's killing dirt track racing.
No, because
he's a leader of the industry in PA. He is out to kill these local tracks.
No, I am a pay-per-view provider. That is different than streaming. You pay per race, and we share revenue directly with the track on each race.
So what's different with your model versus a Flow?
You pay per race, and it's $1.99 more than gate price. So if the price to get in is $20, you're going to pay $21.99 for ours, and we're going to split it with the racetrack, and we handle all expenses. So we're there for the racetrack, and we're there so the track makes money. So, and it's per race. You're not going to pay $100 and get 50 races. No. That's not happening. Because that's just not what we do. We are a pay-per-view provider. We do not do streaming.
So you're pretty much, your hope is the people shop local. You know, you're up against Walmart and Amazon, and you're the little place down the corner that's charging a little bit more money, but you know, you're trying to make it for the community, for the fairness.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. We're also there for the racetrack. We're there to protect the racetrack. We want people to go to the races, first and foremost. Yeah, we want to make money. Sure, I'm not doing it free, but, you know, I want the racetrack to get their fair share. We share all information with them. We give them reports within 2 days of all the email addresses and where they're from.
Whoa, hold on. You let tracks know how many viewers you got? I thought that's why Dirt Vision and Outlaws had their issue anyways, because they wouldn't tell them the numbers or whatever.
Yeah, well, SprintCarLimited.tv does it differently. They get a report that lists the email address and where the person's from of every person who purchases. We give them a spreadsheet with that.
And so this type of information ain't locked in Fort Knox somewhere like we've been led to believe from the other guys?
Nope. We have it. We give it to them.
Why do you think they don't?
Look, I can speculate.
Is this negotiation? Is this a chip? They don't want them to know?
I can't answer that for them. You want me to be in that board? I mean, look, I can speculate and say, well, sure, they don't. But I don't know why you
see how much funner speculation is? See how
I can only speak to
wait, you over there, you're gonna be mentally deranged worried about all this fact. You need to just let it all go and have some speculation. It's less stressful.
I want to be able to walk into a pit area.
Oh, I'll still walk in. I've been walking in for 4 years.
Do I think
6 now, I guess, but
do I think every track and series should provide that? Yes, I do. I think the track deserves to have those numbers. I think tracks deserve to. And here's the other thing, Chaz. It's a marketing tool for the track that they have those email lists.
Yeah.
I think
streaming in itself is a marketing tool. I think if you're not on streaming, you're somewhat off the map. I think that streaming built Port Royal. I really, really do. It made it more national than it was. I think that's a harsh argument you could make.
Yeah, you could make that argument, but then again, on the flip side, I've always said, okay, if you draw 100 people who go to the track because they saw it on streaming, is that enough to make up for what they don't make on streaming?
Well, I don't know. Back to that national prowess. I mean, how much is that worth? How much is that actually worth? How much people want to be on a sign at your track just because you're that famous? Or, I mean, I'm sure these are the arguments that they make, but I also
know how much those signs are sold for.
Right.
Got to remember, Chaz. All I do is this, so I get information from a lot of places, and I'm not saying I'm smarter. It just means I'm dumb enough to do it for a living.
Yeah, and you're in the Hollywood of sprint car racing, I think.
Yes, I mean I get criticized for being hard on Pennsylvania, but it is truly the biggest area in sprint car racing, and it's not close.
No, it's not close. I would say 60% of streaming views of the Outlaws and All Stars is PA based.
Look, I can't say that. I can say just from a fan standpoint, when I look at the stands at a California race and I look at the stands at, say,
Knoxville Weekly.
National. Well, see, the problem with Knoxville is Knoxville's so big. It's hard to judge how many people they have there. It's really difficult.
Right.
That's difficult. They have 25,000 seats. So, I mean, if it's 20% full, that's really good.
That's
now,
true.
I agree. Williams Grove their biggest crowd ever, I believe, was 2013 Williams Grove National Open when Fred Raymer won, excuse me. He was Freddie at the time. That was a huge crowd. And so if you get 2,000 people at the Grove, it looks like a bad crowd. So you kind of gotta use a formula to do that. I count and multiply when I look at crowds and know what the average ass size of a person
PA is the biggest by far.
Yeah, it is. It really is. And look, you can come here and earn and make a living. If you're a sprint car driver and you're good, you can make a living. Look at Brent Marks.
Right.
Brent Marks made $642,000 last year. SprintCarRatings.com is one of the best things out there for that. Do a great job. And, Anthony Macri made $400,000 last year. Now you got to win. But even Freddie Raymer, look what Freddie Raymer made this year. Went at Lincoln and the Grove. All he did is run Lincoln and the Grove. I mean, you could do okay here. We'll
let you go. We'll let you go. We don't need to carry you into the middle of the night.
Yeah, I'm gonna get to work here, but it was a pleasure talking to you, as always.
The last question though, and everybody wants to know. They seem to be saying it. I've heard it a few times. I just came back from Joe's shop. Is sprint car racing going to be gone in 10 years?
Not 10 years, but I do think we need to worry.
What is there to worry about?
Well, you got to worry that we do not adjust with the times. We do not adjust with the attention spans of the younger generation. It's a very old
We reject
sport.
their ideology. We ridicule them publicly on socials and in the stands.
Correct. And look, there's got to be some acceptance, and you just need to evolve. The sport needs to evolve
it's that
with
simple.
the time. I think, and I'm going to throw this.
No more porta potties.
Yeah, no woman wants to sit in a porta potty. Okay, I barely want to stand in one.
No more troughs in guys' restrooms.
Oh God, don't get me started. Brad,
where do you go in the world and piss in a trough, Jeremy? You go to the worst 7-Eleven on the biggest dark road and go into the spider-infested bathroom and piss in a trough?
I mean, I'd almost rather go in a field.
It's the same damn thing. I don't want everybody to know how small it is.
Well, they say size doesn't matter, I guess. Well, but no, look, I got to say this. I got to say this about Brad Sweet. One thing I will give this to Brad Sweet. He is thinking. And I talked to him. It's not that he's thinking outside the box. He knows that you're competing in so many forms of entertainment. Brad Sweet knows and understands that things got to change and it's got to be done better. That is a big feather in the cap of High Limit. That I will say. And this sport.
You don't think Brian Carter's doing the same?
I think the Outlaws run a pretty tight ship. So, yes, I think the Outlaws, like tonight, it's 3.5 hours. And that.
So then why does Brad get a feather if he's doing the same as them?
You're right, and I have to give the Outlaws credit for that as well. But I think I give Brad because Brad's new, and I think Brad also wants to take it a step further.
That's what I initially said. I said bigger, and I was thinking that is the one sense I do get from Brad and Kyle is they're wanting it to be more, where it seems like the Outlaws are like, we want it to be how we have it and orderly and governmental bodily, like you said. Some people are anti-government, and the Outlaws bleed a government establishment, fall in line type of attitude. But I don't get that sense from the Sweet Larson regime.
Look, the Outlaws in the World Racing Group are not the Death Star. Okay, these people get.
But that's what it looks like because they're governmental.
Well, that's just not using your head. You know, it's. Trust me, they do a lot of good things. And where I was kind of saying that about Brad is, I've talked to more directly with Brad, and I just think the sport on the whole needs to look at what the Outlaws have done and look at what Brad's thinking. And I think your weekly shows need to. I think you need less racing. Central Pennsylvania had 118 races scheduled this year. That is way too much. It's just people don't have the money, and there's just a lot of things that need to change, and this sport needs to evolve, and they all need to get in a room and figure it out. Because if they don't, you're going to lose fans. You're not going to gain younger fans, and then you're going to be looking up in the stands, and nobody's going to be there.
Well, I'll tell you what. I think where you're missing the gun on this Death Star, not seeing it like that. I'm going to say you're missing the gun because here's what I see. Especially after my talk with Donnie Shots, this is what I think, and I ain't really said it, but that's why we need to be doing this more often. You make me think about stuff that matters. I think that because the World Racing Group is somewhat governmental, that Brian Carter acts like he is on another class level than everyone else, and is not there at the tracks like Shots would tell me that a Ted Johnson would be on a regular basis. He acts above and commanding. Whereas, and there's a lot of power in this, when a guy can look, it's almost like a Bubba Wallace thing. You know, Bubba Wallace is in NASCAR and everybody's like, why would you do that? So we can have African-American viewers. There's something that attracts people that says, that guy's like me. And
yes,
Brad Sweet is to the drivers for sure, and the teams, or the boots on the ground. Not some of these team owners are very disconnected. Some of these team owners are like a Brian Carter, and the people on the ground know that too. But the boots on the ground that actually make this thing tick, they look at a Brad Sweet and say he's like me. I'm going to jump on his board because I see him. He's here. Like you said, you talk to Brad Sweet more than you have Carter, and more than likely that's because Brad Sweet's at the track, like you said. So there's power in that. I think that's the one issue that Carter and the elitist sector of the World of Outlaws World Racing Group has done is they've disconnected themselves from their society that they're supposed to be leading, and people like a general more than they do a president, especially if you're fighting in the Army for them.
I think you're right to a degree. Now, I will say the reason Carter is not at every race is he has people to do that, good, bad, or indifferent. And I also keep in mind, Carter's in the office every day. They have offices, and they run a late model series, a sprint car series, and a modified series. They're all up in New York this weekend at Super Dirt Week for the modifieds. It's a big deal. So I think people have an expectation of Carter that he needs to be out on the road. Well, the problem is he's running an operation back in Charlotte. So while I agree with you, I agree that the perception is that, if I need to talk to Carter, I call. Now, again, I'm lucky. I'm lucky in that I built that relationship that I can make calls to drivers and whatever. But the point is, I think you're right because I do think that's probably a perception. But again, I think Brad might be a roll up your sleeves kind of guy as well.
He's one of us. Same thing.
I think he is definitely viewed
a Trump effect,
that
if
way.
you will.
No, you're. I think there's some merit to what you're saying. I think it's not. I don't think Carter. I think Carter has some things going on that don't allow him to do that. But again,
and that's fine. If you're going to step back in that type of role, then you're supposed to have people that you put in those positions, and then you let everyone know it, and you let those people make the decisions on if people can run races, and you let those people make the decisions and the educated decisions, the ones that are on the ground with the warriors that you're supposed to be leading, you let those people decide if 2 nights are going to count at the Eldor Million. You know, you don't really go out there and let the world you run everything. You put people in positions that are able to do what you can't do, and then you let them make the decisions that you can't either because you're not on the ground with your warriors that you're supposed to lead.
Yeah, I think one of the things the World of Outlaws could do better is transparency.
Well, and they lack it
That's
because they
always-
don't have any experience to be transparent about, I think, in a way.
Well, I
also
think they don't feel they have to.
Well, back to the classism. Back to the commanding.
I also think
people don't like that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not one that thinks everybody needs to know everything, but I do think there's some things that should be known. So, I mean, do I think they should have to give their numbers to everybody as far as how much they make off Dirt Vision? No, it's a private business. But I do think there's other things that they should, talk about, like some of the decision making, now everybody, like when that whole deal happened, I guess it was Beaver Dam with the official and Shots' crew member. People don't understand in North Carolina law, the Outlaws couldn't say anything because it's a human resource issue.
Well, it was Cedar Lake, for the record, but
Cedar Lake.
Yeah,
yes.
I know what you're talking about, but even in that aspect of looking at it, it's a private entity, yes, but what's making this private entity money? It's this group of drivers and team owners that is supposed to be in your group, and the world don't need to know numbers, but these
Correct.
guys who are out there on the firing line making you succeed should know that number, should know what they need to know. There should be transparency all the way with those people that are supposed to go to war for you.
I can't argue that.
I don't care if you tell me the Chaz don't need to know your damn streaming numbers, but how the hell are these people who have made you? Because they could say they're the brand and all that, but the drivers over time have made the World of Outlaws the World of Outlaws. So
yeah. Well, that's a whole look. That's something they're going to have to deal with, and I don't know. We'll see how it all turns out. We'll see. Like I said, I think both groups, they've done a good job, and there's some things that they could always do better. I'm sure. Brad Sweet. One thing Brad Sweet said after the Tri-City thing, he owned it. I wrote the story that night. He owned what happened, and again, I give him credit for that. And then they've also run some damn efficient shows, and I'll tell you what, the World of Outlaws run some damn efficient shows, and you got to do that. But that's what needs to happen in sprint car racing. It needs to be streamlined. They need to kind of take a page from the NBA. I'll tell you what, I will say this, and then I'll get going here, but every track, every promoter, every series promoter at PRI should go to an Indiana Pacers game on Friday or Saturday. I'm not really a big basketball guy, but I go to 2 games usually when I'm out there. I go once for enjoyment and then once to just watch what they do.
Study.
And I'll tell you what, every promoter and every series director, they should just rent out a section at Conseco Fieldhouse. I don't even know if it's called that anymore, but it's the Indiana Pacers game. So, but
and I experienced the same thing at a bull. I went to bull riding, PBR, sold out.
Yeah.
And the on-track product, the actual bull riding sucks. It's the entertainment. It's way different than the basketball game. Obviously, basketball is entertaining in itself. But I saw 25,000 people, and I'm like, why are y'all here? There's no real actual, but it's the entertainment. It's the clown talking crap to the crowd. It's closer to, WWE, and I'm not saying what WWE in the sport or should be the fix, but at the same time, it's an entertainment value. I think that what needs to happen, one of the bigger deals for your on-track product is all the things with time and everything you're saying. I would throw inverts in there too. I hate the standard outlaw format for the entertainment factor that's going to make you bigger. I think inverts is needed, personally.
I just don't
Inverts,
think
something needs to happen format-wise.
Well, then they need to change some things with the cars so guys can move around and pass more. You can't take a field that is separated by a tenth or 2/10 from first to say 20th and invert them over 8 laps and expect them to move around and pass people. That doesn't happen.
No. We're not inverting heat races. No, you're going to be safe there. We're inverting the mains only.
I think it's the same principle.
It's not. You got more time. Go to work. Put on a show. It's entertainment. Welcome to the game.
Yeah, but then again, you got to get them outside that box. That's the problem.
Well, I mean, hey, Kyle Larson can do it.
Well,
if you inverted the first 5 rows, Kyle Larson could do it. Oh, they're rolling a dice, but they're scared. They won't even come off a third on that Durst dice roll. That was the biggest failure of promotional ideas. And the only reason it fell was because the drivers don't have no damn confidence. They won't give up a third.
You want to know? You know what they did that was really good? They adjusted, and now you get extra money. That position gets extra money if you.
They
win.
adjusted to prove my point that the way they're lining these races up don't matter. I mean, that don't matter. You know, give it to the 8th guy. He can't win the race. I don't ever watch a late model race and think that. Ever. It don't matter starting position in a late model race. That's why the racing's so damn much better. I don't ever worry about starting position. Guy can win from anywhere in the field if he's good enough. You can't do that in sprint cars. That's horrible.
No. Well, I mean, that's a package difference. It's an engine. It's they got to change.
That's a car. So we need a next-gen sprint car. I was thinking about this. This is what Kyle and them are going to do. I talked about it 2 years ago. I wanted to do a next-gen sprint car and do like an invite, almost like SRX before SRX was even thought of, by the way. I was talking to some people about building like a little bit of a bigger cage so the driver has some room, throw a starter in there, call it like a new super modified or something and have 12 equal cars and invite them and do midweek races. Like I was talking to people about this 3.5 years ago. Then SRX comes and all this midweek stuff. So thought it's creation, whatever. But I thought about this for publicity, for marketing. Are they going to start allowing starters over at high limit? And if you have a starter, you get a weight break. Are they going to start saying you can run this new chassis? Are they going to get in with the manufacturers? Is Kyle going to be in Indianapolis going over to Delara saying maybe you can innovate a safer sprint car and we'll go to a new sprint car based on innovation? And we'll be the new guys who brought this new safety to the sport.
I mean, I'm not going to say no. I don't know what their plans are, but boy, the starter thing, I mean, there's just a lot of logistics. Here's the other thing, too. You got to watch. We already have so many different formats, so many different ways of doing things. And I think it confuses people. I think we need to get more on the same page with stuff and get more universal. So that's a slippery slope. I don't know what the answer is to that. I mean, there's people way smarter than me. I'm not a technical guy either. One thing, like when I'm in the pit area and I'm getting stories and stuff, I can't look at a car and go, oh, they need I'm not a technical guy like that. I'm more of a story. It's just, I ask. And I can get the right information, but I can't just look at it and say, oh, they need this much in the right rear or whatever. I can't do that. I can't even venture to do that. If it was football, I could do that. I can't, it just doesn't compute. I'm not a gearhead, but I can get stories and I do ask people a lot and then they'll explain it to me and I'm okay. But so I can't tell you what the answer is from a chassis. Do they need I can just tell you that is it going to be gone in 10 years? No, I don't think it's going to be gone in 10 years, but I do think it could look different. And I do think people all need to get in a room and kind of pull in the same direction to get it where it needs to be. is the best
So
way I can say it.
starters in sprint cars, spotters as well. I guess if we're not doing a new, at least mandatory, everyone can wear a watch. At least that.
Oh, you're stuck on this watch.
Hey, he's still telling everybody I play by a different set of rules. Y'all are below me. Back to classism. But anyway, and then I guess next thing you know, we're gonna have we got to change the mechanics of the car. I guess is what we're both concluding on. Don't matter what you do to the format, it's just too close. Maybe we need to put some slits in the wing. You know, put some holes, some gaps, not indentions like Kyle. But instead of where that indention is to cheat on the racetrack, potentially, I think a slit right there, just to open holes in the wing. Take the top wing away. Let's drop the lap times. What are we doing?
Look, my suggestion's this, and then I got to get to work. My suggestion is go to Carl Kinzer and ask him what you should do. He'll tell you.
Oh, God. That's like finding one of those Willie Mays cards in you know, Anaheim. Need you on a haystack. Thanks. Fuck.
Well, just go to Carl Kinzer. He'll tell you how you can fix it.
All right. So sprintcarunlimited.com. Links to sprintcarunlimited.tv, I'm assuming.
Yeah, there's a thing there you can click, or you can just go to sprintcarunlimited.tv.
What's your biggest race on your streaming platform? What is it coming up?
Speed Week shows. Oh, coming up, we have the November 11th show at Baps Motor Speedway. It's $25,000 to win. It's the week after Charlotte. I believe it's the last 410 sprint car race in the country.
And Baps has been coming back strong, and for that to go to 25,000, I think that was a mid-season announcement. I think.
Yeah, and by the way,
that's big.
It is. It's 1,300 to start. It's 2,000 for 12th. It's 10,000 for second. It pays really, really well. There's contingencies. I think it's $1,000 for fast time. There's a lot of money up, and I think it's going to be a good field. I'm anxious to have that on our streaming service. Baps Motor Speedway. It's one of my favorite tracks. It races really well. Those four 4/10 or 2/5 that you like to call it.
It is not a 410. There's no such thing.
It's slang in racing.
That is a slang term. Continue.
Tonight I heard that Port Royal was .495. So, you tell me.
Wow.
So no.
7/16.
It's good. Yeah, it's a good racetrack. I love broadcasting from there. Happy to have them on the platform, and I'm really happy to end the year there. So yeah, check us out if you can't be there. We want you at the track though. And if you want, and we're going to have plenty of news on sprintcarunlimited.com the rest of the year.
I would have said there, as you was explaining that show, they should turn that race into a, Black Friday high limit sale show or something. But they can't do that. I don't think Brad would be on board because we got to cut that flow in there and get that money, So it's all about the love though, Jeremy. It's all about the love.
Hey, you know what? If they hold a high-limit race, I mean, look, the Outlaws were there this year, and they were on Dirt Vision, and I was happy for them because you know what? It gets out to a huge audience. That audience.
One of the best races this year there.
Yeah, and you know what? Everybody in the Dirt Vision audience gets to see Baps, and then maybe they want to check out one of our shows from Baps. It gets Baps more exposure, more money. I'm good with it.
Right, and if they do a high-limit show next year, they get to promote that Kyle's coming.
That is true. That is true.
That was the chip that was played. That's the chip that was played.
Yeah, that is true. It was played, and played well.
It was played well. But all right, well, thanks for calling in. Our second, actually. This is our second. The last time was different, for sure.
Yeah, I went on about midgets.
Oh, God. Nothing's ever good about it. Nothing's ever good. Nothing's ever
Not
good.
Not my mind.
Okay. All right.
All right, Chaz. We'll catch you later.
All right.
Yep.
Well, there you had it, ladies and gentlemen. Jeremy Elliott joining the chat today. A little bit of some live chatters in here in the chat that we had. I saw a few super chats from some people. We'll look at them real quick. I saw one was from Spike. We should probably censor that one, I'm assuming. The CIA says if someone thinks you are guilty, you are guilty. So never, ever give a person a reason to feel you are guilty. Very sound advice. Jeremy Elliott, example of someone who is in love with sprint cars and sees no issues with it and won't recognize late models as supreme. The fan base will be dead or not coming in 10 years or less. The racing action at Brownstown tonight was unbelievably good, although the World of Outlaws did screw Ryan Gustin. I said it right. Take the wings off the sprint cars and you might see better racing. If USAC paid more money, I think there'd be more attention. And then Jordan with the support chat. So thanks for sending in all those super chatters. We are going to get off here. 2 hours. I didn't think that would happen. 2 hours is a long time. But there's a lot of good stuff in there. None of that was boring. Because here at the Chaz, we like to speculate. So that means none of it ever is. But anyways, ladies and gentlemen, like the video. Comment below, share the video around. It means a lot. Join the membership on the channel if you want to. It definitely goes a long way. But as always, be sure to subscribe and we'll catch you next time. Listen to this song though. Not a new one, but it's always good. We'll see you later.
Ride anywhere we need to go. We can ride